Some key concerns around the negotiations relate to the risk of fragmentation in the fight against cybercrime. This is because of the coexistence of several instruments that could hold back global anti-cybercrime efforts if the provisions across documents are not harmonized. Some states and the industry alike fear that new and undue burdens would be introduced with the framework, and that would prevent them to operate timely and efficiently when tackling transnational cybercrime. Instead, they call for streamlining the work of the authorities and refraining from introducing new regulations for the industry to avoid conflation with existing laws. At the same time, civil society organizations remain watchful about the government's access to data. This access needs to be narrowly defined and tailored to meet privacy, public safety, and national security requirements. States must ensure that the provisions do not allow for intrusion and that they incorporate robust human rights safeguards as well as guarantees for independent oversight and effective redress mechanisms for victims of cybercrime. The risks to human rights and fundamental freedoms in this criminal justice treaty are multiple. They are spanning from potential lack of data protection, privacy issues, unlawful surveillance, mass surveillance, inadvertent criminalization of cybersecurity practices, to stifling the freedom of expression. Civil society has been also sounding an alarm about how these discussions, with the potential implications for human rights protections globally, are being rushed through. Take, for example, how important is the protection of data. Without sufficient robust protections, there is a possibility for prosecutors or law enforcement to access personal data without independent or judicial oversight, or use electronic surveillance to interfere with the rights to privacy and freedom of expression in ways that violate international human rights law. It is also essential to keep in mind that cybercrime instruments and legislation have been weaponized by some states to target human rights defenders, journalists, and opposition. A future law enforcement tool on cybercrime must prevent legitimizing these practices. A new treaty cannot become a tool for reducing existing obligations under international law and must ensure that the provisions are framed in compliance with international human rights law. This is a vital requirement, also a practical one, for enabling transnational cooperation, as many jurisdictions, such as the European Union countries, have in place strong human rights and procedural safeguards. Without adhering to these safeguards, the exchange of evidence will not be possible.